Welcome to the Manufacturing Masters Podcast with your host, Allison DeFord.
Here's your PSA for the day. Stop wasting money on trade shows. Instead, I want to encourage you to get a bigger return on your trade show investment. And I am going to help you do that. Today, we're going to talk about a pre, at, and post-show strategy to get a bigger bang for your trade show buck, connect on a deeper, more meaningful level with your customers and your prospects, and ultimately make sales easier, because that is the whole point. Thank you for investing in yourself and your business today, and for spending some time with me. I appreciate you. Everybody, here we grow. Hey, friends. Today is a special episode. I'm flying solo, and we're going to talk about a really hot topic for manufacturers, and that's trade shows. Now, if any of you have read any of my content anywhere, I've talked a lot about trade shows, and I think we can all agree the time has come to stop wasting money on trade shows. Now, before you turn off this podcast or stop watching, hear me out for a second. There's a little more to this. I see manufacturers going to shows, spending the money on a 10 by 10 or even larger booth. You've got the expense of travel for your team. You've got meals, hotels, fill in the blank. You know what it takes to get to a trade show. And afterward, I cannot tell you how many times I've been in a meeting and said, what was your return on investment for that show? And all I get is, we got X amount of leads, and the sales team followed up, and we're really not sure if we got any customers from that show. And it always causes me pause, because this doesn't have to be this way. And that's what today's episode is about, is I want to talk about how to stop wasting money on trade shows and start recouping a higher return on investment from going to them. And I have a formula that I want to share with you today. It's been very successful for many of my manufacturing marketing clients. And I've had several people that said, you need to share this. Like, more people need to take advantage of this, this strategy. So I'm sharing it with you today, pulling back the trench coat, if you will. And we're going to really look into a pre, at, and post-show trade show strategy to make sales easier, because that's the whole point. Now, I think trade shows still have a place in manufacturing, in part of your marketing strategy. Let's face it, the people that you expect to see there are usually there. And if somebody isn't there, why not? It's like there's a party happening, and either they didn't feel it was important to show up. I think it gives people a little pause, and they wonder, if you're not there, you didn't have a place at that table. So my recommendation is, you don't have to be at every single trade show throughout the year. Pick and choose the most important ones. Maybe there's only one. That's totally fine. But zero in on which ones will get you the most exposure in front of your ideal potential customer. And part of this is part of a pre-show strategy, right? Is figuring out which shows we're going to attend. Once we've got that figured out, we're going to put a plan in motion way ahead of the trade show. So let's say you've got a big one coming up in 6 months. I want you to start planning ahead of time. If you don't have time to do it, hire somebody to help you, a consultant, a freelancer, work with an outside agency. It doesn't have to cost tens of thousands of dollars to do this either. So before the show, you want to figure out, what is our intention? What is it we're trying to get out of this show? And what is it we're trying to give to the people who are going to be there? I think even a theme isn't a bad idea. And it makes it a lot easier to play off of with all of your content that you're going to generate before, during, and after the show. So with the pre-show strategy, I encourage you to plan on sending out an email once a week for 6 weeks prior to the show. And think about anything that you're bringing to the show that's new. Do you have a new product that you're launching? Do you have a new service that people are going to get excited about? Do you have a new designation or accreditation? Is that the right way to say that? Anything new. Maybe there's a new engineer on your team or a new designer. I think is there anything new to talk about? And what's going to get people excited? Why will they want to come to your booth? After you've made a list, right, of those things, then I want you to put that into these 6 emails. And the 6 emails are not just going to be, and please, dear God, I don't want to see the wee syndrome on any of these emails. I've seen it in the past, makes me cringe. Don't make it all about you. So imagine you get an email before a trade show from a company. And maybe you've heard of them. You don't work with them right now, but they bothered to reach out before the show. And imagine if the email was all about them. Hi, we're going to be at IMTA. We're going to be at booth 242. You should stop by and talk to us. We've got a new machine to demonstrate. You see where I'm going? It's covered in wee. It's not appealing. It's not motivating. I apologize for the voice. I've had a cold for a couple of weeks, so bear with me here. So I want you to flip the script. I want you to lead with you. Why in the world will they want to come by and visit booth 242? What's there for them? Is there something they can experience? Is there something they can do? Is there something they can have a little fun with? We've done things in the past with clients where they did fortune cookies, and you spin a wheel, you get a fortune, and we had customized messages put into these fortune cookies. People really loved it. It was a big hit. It keeps people at your booth longer, allows you to strike up a lengthier conversation. And another client is doing a putting green right there in their booth. And the idea is that you putt and then you get a free prize. Maybe it's a small giveaway, and make it something useful. I'm kind of over the pens and pads of paper and anything that's become ubiquitous. So get creative, make it something useful that if it's sitting on their desk, they're thinking of you. I mean, every single day, it's just like a little drip drip, but it's also thoughtful. It's like, God, that's the best giveaway I ever got at a trade show. That kind of giveaway. It's way more important to have one thing you're giving away like that than a whole table full of crap. Unless your audience likes that, I don't want to assume, but this is just based on experience and observation. So feel free to disagree. I'd love to hear from you, by the way, after the episode. If if there's anything I leave out or you feel like you strongly disagree with, reach out. I'd love to strike up a conversation about that because I'm always learning. And that's how I help you. So, maybe you've got something fun for them to do. That's something you can talk about in the email. Another thing you can talk about is maybe you're going to enter them to win something. One of the greatest gifts or giveaways that I've seen somebody do, and they're a manufacturer, and they're in Maine. So they're giving away a lobster dinner for 4 that is shipped to you on dry ice from a very popular restaurant in Maine. And it's because that's where they hail from. And I've never seen anybody else send out a raffle off a lobster dinner. It's a huge hit. They do it at a number of shows. Sometimes they take a break every other year and do something different, but it's been consistently popular. Why? Because it's unique. 2, because lobster's pretty expensive most of the time. 3, everybody knows great seafood comes from coastal regions, and it's something memorable. Everybody likes to eat. So think about something like that. You're going to put these things in your e-blast before the show. I also want you to add a call to action, some sort of, maybe you're giving them a free download. Maybe it's a free white paper before the show. Maybe it's a comparison chart. Maybe it's something that is talking about a hot topic right now in the industry and it's weighing, pros and cons. Something that is worth at least $20. Why do I say that? The latest research that I read said that most people will give their email address if they feel like something's worth at least $20. So when I tell people offer a freebie, make sure that there's some value in it for them that's worth at least $20. And you'll be surprised. I can't tell you on one hand. I mean, maybe 2 companies total in my 30 plus years in this industry have I received an email from somebody before a show and they gave me something ahead of time. So this is a real opportunity for you to give before you get, right? My buddy Greg Michio calls this becoming the go-giver and teaching your team to do that as well. And then I want you to think about in each of these emails before the show to have a PS. Everybody reads the PS. That's a known fact. So in the PS, what if you say something fun and clever? Maybe you're going to be in Vegas. There's a lot of content, a lot of humor you can play off of when it comes to locations. Indianapolis is a popular spot for trade shows, Indy 500, racing, you name it. My team and I have probably written about it, but I can tell you for certain that when you ask a question in the PS, it's fun to see that you actually start getting responses. I've had salespeople and teams be really surprised. They'll say, "Oh my gosh, we've never get responses to these emails before a show. Like we usually send out, 1, hey, we're going to be there next week, stop by." So this is an opportunity to touch 6 times, to give 6 times before they even get to the show. Then what you want to do from these emails is you want to pull out social posts and do at least a social post per week, 6 weeks prior to the show. Get people's, dangle some carrots, get people excited for the fact that they're coming and you cannot wait to see them. You're going to have experts on hand, the face-to-face relationship building. Maybe you're going to buy them a cup of coffee. Maybe you're going to have, a happy hour at 4:00 in your booth. Something, some reason in social media. Again, don't make it all about you. Make it about them. What's in it for them if they stop by your booth? How are you going to help solve their problems? How are you going to help make their life easier? That sort of thing. So think of it like that. And then the other thing that I want you to consider is to come up with, how are we going to analyze the leads that we get? And how are we going to remind people during the show that maybe they haven't stopped by yet? You know, a lot of times people get busy, especially if you're at a massive show like maybe AWFS. It's massive. It's multiple buildings. It's hard to get around to every booth. So those little reminders during the show, if you've got somebody on your team who's even decent with social media, who maybe have a make a little video, you know, even those can be fun. It doesn't have to be high tech. It doesn't have to be long. Just something to that's fun, and that's a little friendly reminder of, hey, you know, we're in day one of the such and such show. We're in day two, having so many great conversations. Like, drop some humor. Again, maybe tie in some language with what's happening, that ties in with the city or the event. And just drop a couple of those reminders each day during the show. And then post show, I encourage you to send out 2 sets of e-blasts for the next 3 to 4 weeks. One e-blast is going to go to prospects and one is going to go to current customers. Even if your current customers were not at the show, this is a great follow-up, a great reminder of the things you said you were going to be talking about, doing, helping with, etc. How you had those conversations during the show with people, anything new that you learned while talking with people at the show. And again, with the PSs, and definitely a call to action. So I encourage you, lead them to a landing page on your website, lead them to a specific blog post that's talking about a particular topic that was maybe hot during the trade show. And, you know, don't be afraid to continue giving. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the most important things you can do with this email list, is it's algorithm resistant, right? So if you're only relying on social media and you think everybody's seeing your feed, I want you to think again. I tell clients all the time, I want you to imagine that because the algorithms are finicky, just imagine that people are not seeing what you posted on social media. How else are you communicating with them? I don't want you to put all your eggs in the social media basket. That's why emails are so important. Obviously coupled with phone calls, you know, setting up special dinners while you're there. I know that that goes a long way. And then really measuring, like putting these analytics to work after the show. If you have a salesperson that is not good at this, there's got to be somebody in your company that is probably more analytical. Maybe they would get a kick out of helping out with this, but really take a look at, what leads did you get? Did you drive in additional traffic with this show, with this strategy? How did that go this year as compared to last year? I want you to think about, you know, most of the time I ask people at trade shows, how many new customers do you need from this show to pay for this show? What would be a win? Most of the time, the answer is one. One new quality customer would pay for this show. So it's not like we're trying to reach hundreds or thousands of people, right? I want your emails to feel a little more intimate. They should come from your sales manager. And again, don't be afraid to speak like a human being, not a robot. Use abbreviations like we've, I've. It's much more conversational, right? Than everything being drawn out. I have, you have, we will. Shorten it up. And also don't be afraid to keep these emails short and sweet. They don't have to be lengthy, but make sure there's a call to action. It's very important. And I want to encourage you to make sure your booth is manned. at all times, especially if it's a high traffic time. I don't know if you saw this or if you've heard Kurt Anderson and I talking about it numerous times, but I got people a little riled up with a post that I did a number of years ago. I was not trying to be a cynic or, by any means sling crap at this particular company, but I was at a very important trade show for manufacturers, and it was a high time during the day. And I walked by this booth and there was nobody in it. There was no sign that said we'll be back in 5. It was just, I don't know. It was crickets. And it was a great booth. Really well done. I was excited to actually talk to these people and learn more. And I didn't see anybody come back to that booth for a long, long time. And I don't know, it was just felt like a missed opportunity and a poor first impression. And hey, I've been at trade shows. I understand. Sometimes you got to go to the bathroom and you may be the only one there. Totally understandable. But I do encourage you to set something out where at least there's a QR code that tells people what to do. Hey, scan this and we'll send you a free fill in the blank. Scan this to learn more. And don't be afraid to put up a little sign, that says, hey, we'll be back in 5. Just communicates with people in case for some reason your booth is empty when that prospect walks by. And the other thing I want to encourage you to do to make more out of your trade show experience is have your team take more pictures. I cannot tell you how difficult it is to create these e-blasts and social posts and have nothing to work with. And it's so easy for your team to snap photos, hey, get people's permission. Is it cool if we tag you in a social post? Absolutely, no problem. Maybe you're meeting with a current customer. Shoot a selfie, have your team shoot a selfie, have your team, take some little short videos. It's really effective in communicating the show experience before, during, and after. So to wrap up, we're going to keep this short and simple today. I want you to adopt a pre, at, and post show strategy and follow up analytics to get a bigger bang out of your trade show experience and your trade show spend. Oh, and before I forget, I want to leave you with one of the coolest experiences I ever had. This had to be, excuse me, 15 years ago. And it's still the most memorable thing I've ever had happen to me as an attendee. This company, I'd never heard of them. They must have purchased a list for the show. They emailed me and the people on my team, and they introduced themselves, said they were going to be at the show, and if we wanted our free t-shirt, all we had to do was click here, insert our name, our email address, and our shirt size, and our shirt would be waiting for us there at the booth. They couldn't wait to see us. It just was this warm invite extended from a cold email. And it was a cool t-shirt. I think most people love t-shirts, right? Something I can wear, something useful. It's not boring. And so I got to tell you, when my creative partner at the time and I got to this show, we were so excited to go to this booth and see if they were actually going to follow through. They did. They gave us our shirt in a little shrink wrapped plastic, this big, easy to pack or take home. I loved this. It was a cool t-shirt. It wasn't a big spend for them. And we stayed at that booth and talked for at least 30 minutes to the people that were there. We did a little demo. And then afterward, they emailed us multiple times. They were the only people from that particular show. And again, I still remember this. The only people that followed up with emails and gives. And I was so impressed that I ended up becoming a customer. And so I just want to encourage you, step out of your comfort zone. Don't rely on the way you've always done it. And for goodness sakes, don't show up at the show year after year. Either A, doing the same thing every year. Like, that's pushing the easy button. It's a default, and it gets really boring if you show up doing the same thing every single year. 2, make sure your booth graphics are a message to your customers about what's in it for them. Get rid of the wee off of everything, please. And 3, I want to encourage you to say and do something different. Look around at this next show. See if it's a sea of blue. Maybe it's time for you guys to show up at the show featuring a different color. If you notice, are there any selfie opportunities at your booth? That's another really big draw, is to give people a reason to stop and want to take a selfie. It's so simple, but it's a lot of fun. Ask people to tag your company when they share it on social media. Again, these are these calls to action that let people know, here's what you could do next. And make sure that you follow up and talk with your team. What worked? What didn't work? What were people excited about? And then consider taking this a step further and put together some blog posts, right? Maybe there's some evergreen content that can come from your show experience this year. And then again, you're going to make social posts and e-blasts based off of this long form blog. So I hope this was helpful. I've had a lot of discussions lately about this topic. I wanted to bring you something meaty and useful that you can take advantage of this year and make the most of your trade show experience. So I know that you have an inordinate amount of podcasts and books and videos and places where you could spend your time. But today you chose to spend 30 minutes with me and Manufacturing Masters. I thank you. I appreciate and value your time. And it is our sole mission and purpose to elevate and equip you as a manufacturer, because the work that you do matters. Until next time.
If you're not already, subscribe to the Manufacturing Masters podcast on Apple Music or Spotify. And for a deeper dive, head on over to manufacturing-masters.com. It's everything they never taught you in school.